and welcome back to another edition of Metcalf's Movie Journal. This is the show where I do quick reviews for the movies that I watch, give them a score out of 10, and then add them to my list. So let's see what movie we're reviewing today. On March 24th, I watched Jurassic Park 3, which came out in 2001. And Steven Spielberg was finally smart enough to give up the director's chair for this third, and what was almost the last ever movie in the Jurassic Park franchise. He surely saw the same drop in quality we all saw from Part 1 to Part 2, and decided not to go down with the sinking ship. They tried bringing back Sam Neill's Dr. Alan Grant in place of Ian Malcolm, so even on paper this was already less interesting to me. Jeff Goldblum's impact on the franchise cannot be understated, and his absence is noticeable in any Jurassic movie. There's a lot more, though, than just a lack of Goldblum to make this by far the worst film in the franchise so far. And it's not hard to see why it was put on hiatus for so long after this one. With almost 15 years in between this and the eventual reboot Jurassic World, I would guess most of that time was just about making sure the CGI had gotten good enough to present the dinosaurs in a more believable way. But it also helps to have a young Chris Pratt to rebuild it all around and make it into more of a straightforward big-budget summer blockbuster. Where Part 2's The Lost World had a decent enough story, albeit presented in a jumbled, disjointed way, here the story is extremely weak, and the characters are beyond frustrating and annoying, with William H. Macy playing the slightly less offensive husband, Paul Kirby, and he's only slightly less offensive when compared to his wife, Amanda Kirby, played by Tia Leone, who definitely gets credit as the most annoying character in the entire franchise. The two of them have hired Dr. Grant to escort them to the island, and without his knowledge they plan on landing on the island so they can search for their son. I say search for their son, but really it's just Tia Leone's character running around screaming like an idiot, while Dr. Grant assures her that's a bad idea. The fact that Dr. Grant is anywhere near this island again in the first place was set up in really dumb fashion too, as the scene of Paul Kirby hiring him to take them to the island occurs immediately after a scene where Dr. Grant tells a room full of people there's nothing on earth that could get him to go there again. The jump cut that happens there plays out like something straight out of a cheesy television sitcom, rather than the awesome big-budget action movie it's supposed to be. And it's not the only time the tone in this movie is horribly undercut by this feeling of a B-rate comedy. I'm sure one of the more memorable scenes for most people, and one I'm sure to remember, has to be the talking raptor dream sequence, which again feels way too much like a blatant attempt at humor. But it's so out of place, since that's not what this franchise has ever been about. The complex debates of genetic modification and bringing back species from the dead, literally playing God, never left a lot of space for the jokes, and that wasn't a bad thing. Even the most intense dinosaur-driven action moments where I was supposed to be feeling the same kind of thrilling terror the original inspired, even going as far as to have another flipped car wreck as an obvious homage, that same undercurrent of comedy kept permeating through, to the point I was almost laughing out loud at stuff I clearly was not supposed to be. This one, even more than Part 2, seemed desperate to recreate some of the original's magic, and maybe they thought just bringing back Dr. Grant would be enough, but I don't know if there was ever going to be enough material to sustain anything after the original. Once those initial great setup conversations between Ian Malcolm and Dr. Hammond, and the debates about whether to even open the park are out of the way, the only place left to take this is the big-budget action formula, and I think these two direct sequels got caught up trying to cling to that high ground set by the original, and it makes them look that much stupider for trying. Again, Tia Leone really does deserve some mention for just how annoying her character is here. She's like the human representation of nails on a chalkboard. And I would totally understand anyone who says they couldn't finish this movie and points to her as the reason. If I had to listen to her scream for her kid one more time, I might not have finished it either. The framework of people running away from a big scary dinosaur will always present as at least a little bit exciting though. And if you can completely ignore her character, there's at least some dinosaur versus dinosaur fights that are pretty damn satisfying. I ended up giving it a 3 out of 10, and it landed at number 1,250 on my list, putting it right here, in between Road Trip and The New Mutants. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching another edition of Metcalf's Movie Journal. Be sure to click like and subscribe for new videos every week. And if you have a movie that you really want me to watch, be sure to drop me a comment.